Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today's the 7th of February, 2022. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So, a bunch of drama over the last 48 hours, to say the least, around one figure from ENS, Brantly Milligan, who a lot of you will know as one of the faces of ENS. He was part of the core team until recently, actually. He's kind of been let go by the centralized company that he's behind ENS, or at least kind of like one part of ENS, which had the founding team in it. But yeah, I'm not going to rehash all of that today. I'm not going to go through all of that today. I'm not going to give my opinion or anything like that. But I felt like it would be like ignoring the elephant in the room if I didn't talk about it at least today. But so I put out a tweet that just before I said, the ENS community consists of tens of thousands of people working to build an awesome decentralized product that everyone can use. I'm not going to remove my .eth from my name, nor am I going to boycott ENS over one person's views, beliefs. I stand by the ENS community. I put this out because I saw some people advocating for a boycott of ENS or to remove your .eth name, and I was like, why? That doesn't make any sense. Like, ENS is a protocol. Brantly is just one person of the ENS community. Yes, he was he was, and I would consider him still is an important part of the ENS community. And his views, beliefs, doesn't matter how shitty you think they are, they don't dictate what ENS is as a protocol. ENS is much bigger than just one person. I mean, the whole reason we're building decentralized systems is so that we don't have figureheads, we don't have leaders, we don't have centralized leaders. There's different forms of leadership, but the whole point is that it's a protocol. So I think that from that perspective, I'm definitely not going to boycott ENS. I'm going to keep supporting them because there are so many amazing people in the ENS community that are doing amazing work, and the project shouldn't fall apart just because of one person's view. So that's kind of like my view there. But just generally, what I wanted to say about this situation is that it really is a no-win situation at the end of the day. You're damned if you do and damned if you don't. Like, obviously, I said that Brantly was let go by the centralized company TLD that has the founding team a part of it. So this company is kind of like just one part of the ENS ecosystem. But they're totally centralized, and they don't ever plan to be decentralized, and they don't hide the fact that they're a centralized company. It's just like any other company, firing one of their employees for whatever reason, right? Now, you can debate if him being fired for his beliefs is right or wrong. I'm not here to debate that. I'm not here to kind of like tell you how I feel about that. But as I said, what I am here to say is that it's just basically a really shitty situation all around. You're not going to be able to please everyone in these situations. You have, some people on one side saying that people are canceling Brantly, people on the other side saying, well, his words really hurt me, and he should face the consequences of that. So, you're never going to please everyone in situations like this. And I think that obviously this is a bigger issue than just kind of like what happened with Brantly and kind of like the last 48 hours. This extends to basically a lot of like what's happening in real life, a lot of politics in general, and it's not going to get solved by a few Twitter threads. Let's be honest, guys. It's not going to get solved by everyone sitting around and kind of like debating whether this person should have been cancelled or fired or whatever. Cancel culture. You guys know my stance on cancel culture. I absolutely hate it, and I to be honest, I don't think what happened here was necessarily strictly cancel culture or anything like that. I think what happened here was that someone had views and beliefs that a large number of people did not agree with, and they faced the consequences of that, essentially, right? So from that perspective, simply put, like, everyone's going to have a different view on this, not going to be able to please everyone, and I think that when you just get back to focusing on building systems, like if you actually want people to be able to resist people kind of like, I guess like if you want to resist quote-unquote cancel culture, build systems that can resist it. Don't complain about the existing systems not allowing for you to resist it. It's like, people always complain that a Twitter deplatforms people and bans people for certain views. Well, build a better Twitter, guys. Like, we actually have the technology to build decentralized social media systems, but the reason why it hasn't really materialized yet is because it's bloody hard to do. Like, there's been attempts before, but what happens with these decentralized social media platforms is they get overrun by just really shitty content. I'm not talking about like shitty beliefs or views. I'm talking about like just bullshit content, like just spam, basically, because there's no content moderation. There's just nothing going on. So, and not to say that decentralized social media can't work, but the attempts in the past have just been kind of like, subpar, not really up there. And that's why we haven't seen one take off yet. But I think whenever someone or a team or whatever cracks the nut there, it's going to be a pretty big deal. And then we're actually going to see what happens when you can post anything you want online, you can say anything you want, you can spread any message you want with literally no centralized organization able to ban you or blacklist you or anything like that. We're going to see a pretty big fallout from that, I think. And it's going to be a pretty wild ride when that happens, just like as we progress through, I guess, like decentralization in general, decentralizing finance and stuff. We're already seeing a lot of regulators, a lot of TradFi players are pushing back against it, trying to get it like more heavily regulated. That's their way of trying to, if you want to say, cancel us, right? They're trying to cancel DeFi, and that's their way of doing it, by controlling it, because they know it's a threat. Same way, in actual cancel culture, people try to remove someone from the conversation because they view their opinions or beliefs as a threat to the status quo, so to speak, right? So I think it plays out in various ways within the ecosystem, and it doesn't matter where you stand here. If you believe that people, okay, I shouldn't say it doesn't matter where you stand here. I think we all stand on the side of decentralization and building decentralized systems. But if you do stand on that side, you have to realize that by building decentralized systems, you're essentially saying that people can do and say whatever they want, and they won't face any consequences for it. Now, in this case, Brantly faced consequences with the centralized company. He faced consequences in the decentralized world by people taking away their ENS votes from him as a delegate, which is working as intended. The whole point of the delegate system is that you delegate your tokens to people that you want to vote on your behalf. It's the same as in politics. You vote for someone who you want to represent you, and if you no longer like that person, or if that person doesn't share the same views as you anymore, if you don't want to put your support behind them, you vote for someone else. You delegate your tokens to someone else. That's literally that delegate governance working as intended. So if you're complaining about that and thinking that's a shitty governance process, well, then go build something better, or at least advocate for change within ENS. I'm sure you could do that as well, but at the end of the day, we kind of like spent how many years, like tens of thousands of years of humanity getting to a point where we came up with democracy, which is like the least worst governance system. So if you think you can solve governance issues and things like that overnight, yeah, you're kidding yourself, right? But I think this is, as I said, much bigger issue than just what's happened over the last 48 hours. It is everywhere. There is, they call it culture wars and things like that. It's going on everywhere, guys. And I think crypto obviously plays a huge part in this, but in the context of what happened over the last 48 hours, I just think that there's really no winning. The winning move is kind of not to play, but that's not an option for a lot of people. The people that this directly affects, they don't really have the option of not playing. Not playing to them is basically giving in and letting it letting it kind of like spread and and feeling excluded and feeling isolated. So I totally get that, but if you the thing is for most people, the winning move is probably just to try and ignore it and move on from it. But even then, you could argue that that's actually a losing move. So it gets complicated really quickly. But anyway, I'm going to move on from that. There's plenty of other stuff to talk about, and I've got actually one thing I'm going to talk about soon, where I'm going to get you guys really bullish for the merge and for proof of stake. But anyway, first, before I do that, I'm going to jump into the thread that Tim Beiko put together around the latest AllCoreDevs call. And this was an absolutely monster AllCoreDevs call and thread, all about the merge and Shanghai, which is the first upgrade coming after the merge. You can check out Tim Beiko's recap here. Obviously, he highly recommends going and watching the 90-minute video, which he links in the thread as well. But there are so many updates here, guys. I just want to highlight this for you. I'm not going to try and break it down on the kind of like refuel here. I'm just going to say, go read it, because it has, as I said, updates on the merge, updates on Shanghai, updates on the EIPs within Shanghai, updates on a bunch of other things that are going on the core development side. And as you guys know, I've told you plenty of times that Ethereum core development is in the best place it has been in ever. And it's moving so nicely for a network as big as Ethereum is, and there's so many major upgrades coming that I'm super excited about them. Even if you may not think that they're major things, I definitely think they are. And I think that there's a few user-facing major things in there as well, like the EIP 4488 to get the merge, to get the not the merge, to get the roll-up cost down. That's obviously going to be felt by end users. Some things about UX like EIP 3074, which you can read about and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely go jump into this thread, give it a read, and there's links to a bunch of other information you can check out as well. All right, so as promised, here is the tweet that I put out just before where I said Ethereum's transition to proof of stake is not priced in. Now, I have spoken about the merge, the issuance reduction, the burning, the proof of stake, the demand shock, the supply shock for ETH. I've spoken about this so many times for you guys before. But what I want to kind of like bring it all together again today is because I need to kind of like put the bullish energy out there for you guys. It's been a tough last 48 hours. It's been a tough last few months with the market not being very, very bullish. I mean, we're back over 3K as of time of recording, which is nice, but we're still not out of the woods just yet. So to get you guys bullish, to get you guys excited again, to get you guys feeling like, okay, ETH isn't going to be at 3K forever, let's talk about why the transition to proof of stake is not priced in. The simple fact is that there is still, at most, a few thousand people maybe that fully understand the implications of the merge coupled with the ERP 1559. And I would actually say that it's not even at a few thousand. I would still say that it's much less than that. But we have a lot of people coming out of the woods now advocating for, putting together models and advocating for a much higher ETH price based on everything, I guess, that I've been saying over the last maybe year or so, everything that the people like the Bankless guys have been saying, other hardcore Ethereans have been saying, and the message is reaching more people. But in saying that, I would still say that most people have no idea. I mean, almost everyone doesn't have any idea how big this is going to be. And because of that, there's kind of like a massive asymmetric bet here, I believe. I mean, obviously not investment advice, but I believe that the fact that so little people understand the impact of this, the impact of the 80 to 90% issuance reduction coupled with the burn, the impact of a negative issuance in ETH, and the impact of the fact that until 6 months after the merge, we won't even have withdrawals. So there'll be like there'll be basically no new supply entering the Ethereum ecosystem or entering the ETH supply. I think, the amount of people who actually fundamentally understand that is very, very low. Do I think that more people are going to understand that as time goes on? Of course they will. And that is why, it's not priced in today, probably won't be priced in for a very long time, but priced in implies that like there's no more future upside left, or there's little upside left. There's plenty of upside left because by the time most of I wouldn't say the world, but like investors and people who invest in not only crypto, but just invest generally, understand how Ethereum and ETH's kind of like dynamics work. ETH will be at a lot higher price. So you don't want to get to that point yet. You want to be at the point that we are at right now, where you have the massive opportunity to buy at this price, which I think $3,000 ETH is a steal. Obviously, I'm buying. I put that tweet out the other day where I said that I stopped my daily buys. That was a psyop, guys. Like, and I was going to buy under 2K. That was literally just me shit posting because everyone said stop posting bullish things, so I stopped posting bullish things. Right? I started posting bearish things, and then people took it seriously, and then Kobe ratioed me, and I'm like, okay. Maybe I'll just stop bear posting for now, which I did, of course, and now we're bullish again. I'm not bull posting yet, but obviously I'm being very bullish right now. As time goes on, we're going to have more and more people like, I believe his name was Ryan Alice, I think, who went on Bankless and talked about the $3 trillion case for ETH. We have ARK talking about I think $180,000 ETH or something like that, like $20 trillion market cap and things like that. These are becoming, more and more widespread views. They're not consensus views there, but they're more and more widespread. And you heard it first on the Daily Gwei. You heard it first on the Refuel. I spoke about $100,000 ETH, a $10 trillion ETH ages ago. I spoke about a $10,000 ETH in 2019 when ETH was $100. So by kind of like realizing the opportunity really, really early on and having conviction on it, so you can actually weather the storm, because before kind of like we saw ETH all-time high again from when I believed that ETH was going to 10K, I believe I started kind of like thinking about it in early 2019 where the first signs of real DeFi came to light. We had 1559 in the pipeline. Then I started realizing that the issue introduction from Proof of Stake would be so grand. I'm like, okay, well, if this all plays out like I think it will, and if demand for block space goes up like I think it will, then we're going to get to a point where it's going to be a ridiculous kind of shock for ETH as an asset when we get to kind of like the merge, which obviously wasn't called the merge back then, but it was the same kind of thing. And back then, until kind of like ETH broke its all-time high again, it was over 2 years. So I sat through basically 2 years of believing this. I mean, if you want to argue the kind of like sideways action that we saw $100 to $300, that was a year and a half where basically I kept buying ETH with that same belief in kind of like play there, even though and obviously it wasn't going to play out straight away. So that's how I view it right now. That's how I kind of like view the current dynamic, where I'm buying ETH between maybe $2,000 and $3,000, and then ETH is $30,000 to $50,000 in the future. That was the perfect opportunity to buy it right now, because then it goes much higher. And I just don't think people kind of like understand this, and that's why it is not priced in. So obviously, just stupidly bullish leading up to the merge. I actually think we're going to have quite a large run leading up to the merge. It's just an amazing kind of like narrative catalyst for people. Like, it's getting closer. There is a consensus view that it should happen around June, July-ish kind of thing. It's the target at least right now. And I think the markets are going to start slowly pricing that in. And then I think leading up to it, it's going to be everywhere. Everyone's going to be talking about the merge. It's going to be a massive narrative. Everyone's going to be talking about, quote unquote ETH2, even though it doesn't make sense. Every YouTuber is going to be pushing it. Every TradFi person is going to be pushing it. It is going to be, an amazing trade. And then after the merge, it's kind of hard to tell what happens immediately, like short to medium term after the merge. Do we dump really hard because everyone just sells the news, sells the event? Could be, all right. Do we continue because the supply shock was so grand that that actually offsets that selling? I don't think that happens immediately. I think short to medium term is very different to the longer term dynamics. So we're gonna have to see what happens there. Like, I mean, for example, if ETH runs up to 20K by the merge, if the merge happens in June, then of course it's going to come back down from that, because that's a very, very quick rise in price. I don't think that you can maintain such a quick rise in price, especially at ETH's market cap, without some kind of pullback after a massive narrative trade. But does that mean that ETH is going to crash and never kind of recover to 20K and beyond? No, of course not. And as I said, like the proof of stake coupled with 1559, coupled with the natural demand for ETH going up, coupled with staking becoming such a kind of like material part of Ethereum is going to be absolutely massive. So there's your kind of like, I guess, bullish refresh there for what to be excited for with regards to ETH as an asset. Because, I mean, June is not far away, guys. It's like 5 months. If it doesn't happen in June, like, I don't expect it to happen much later than that. Maybe July, latest kind of like August, unless something critically goes wrong. But as far as I know, the timeline still seems to be June, and that's going to definitely start being kind of like priced in. But again, it's not going to be priced into the point where all the alpha and all the kind of like gains are gone. That's not going to happen for a very long time. Like, it's like, if you want proof of this, like some people kind of like push back on this sometimes and say to me, how can you say that it's not priced in? Everyone talks about the merge. Everyone talks about proof of stake. It doesn't matter if people talk about Ethereum proof of stake because they've heard about it for 8 years. How many people, like think about it. How many people actually realize that there's an 80 to 90% issuance reduction coming, that 1559 already makes ETH deflationary, sometimes for weeks at a time, that demand for ETH's block space is only going to go up because Ethereum is scaling via layer 2s, which are already growing really, really quickly. How many people realize that the supply shock is going to make ETH perpetually deflationary, which is a strong narrative driver? How many people realize that Ethereum's proof of stake is completely different to almost all other proof of stake implementations, because pretty much all of the other ones have high inflation rates. That's like over 5% at least. That's 5% on the network. Whereas with Ethereum proof of stake right now, it may be 5%, but that's only to stakers. It's not to the entire network. So actual network inflation, I think, is 0.6%. If you were, or 0.7%. So I think when you take that all together and you actually map out the implications, you actually do the math, there are very few people who have done that. Very, very few people. And, I would say that even people listening to the Refuel, it doesn't matter if you're kind of like a newer person or a more experienced person, maybe you don't even understand just yet, like the implications of it. Maybe you're still trying to wrap your head around it. And I don't, that's fine. Like, I mean, it's not exactly a simple thing. I talk about it as if it's like something that everyone should know. Not at all. There's a lot of building blocks to get to that point where you actually have the conviction and you actually have the belief and knowledge to back all that up. But that's what I try to do. That's what I try to spread on the channel. That's what I try to do in my newsletter. I try to get you guys on the page that I am on, because I have never seen something so clear in my entire life. Like, I mean, I saw it back in 2019. I'm not going to say that it just became a recent thing for me. That's why I bought a lot of ETH during the bear market, because I saw that back then. But I still see it today. I'm not going to say that, ETH at 49,900, its all-time high, is the only price ETH is ever going to. No way. ETH's going much higher than that. I mean, and the thing is, the only thing that could stop ETH from going much higher than that is if Ethereum adoption stops. If Ethereum loses its market share, if people just lose interest in it and basically we stop getting new users in, and the technology just fades away. The chance of that happening, in my mind, is 0%. Obviously, there's always a chance of that happening, but in my mind, it's 0%. So that's the only bear case I can come up with for Ethereum and for ETH. And because of that, it's why I still buy, I buy ETH as much as I can today, just like in 2019, even though the price is much higher than where I bought in 2019, because I still have that very, very strong conviction, and that's what I'm trying to pass on to you guys. But anyway, going to stop there. I've spent a lot of the episode on that today, but I felt like you needed a bullish refresher, especially over the last 48 hours, guys. There's plenty of stuff happening in the Ethereum ecosystem. It's not just the drama. Get off crypto Twitter sometimes too. I mean, I should take my own advice, but it's really, you get off crypto Twitter, go just read, research, dive deep into all the stuff going on in the layer 2 space and stuff like that as well. Just do that. That's a much better use of your time than sitting on crypto Twitter and watching everyone debate these things, because at the end of the day, in another maybe day or so, everyone's going to forget about this and we're going to move on to the next piece of drama. Like, everyone already forgot about the Sifu Wonderland Frog Nation drama. That was last week, guys. It's already, no one's talking about it anymore. The news cycle moves so quickly, so much of it is just irrelevant to your interests that you should be focusing your energy on other things. And that's what I tried to do. I mean, I should, as I said, I should take my own advice. I spend too much time on Twitter, but I do it because I need to. I actually, for the refuel, for everything. But just generally, your time is much better spent doing research, learning, leveling up yourself, rather than watching people argue on the internet. That's my belief anyway. All right, onto a thread from RAC here today about NFTs. I really, really like this thread. He starts it off by saying, okay, so you hate NFTs. Cool, let's talk about it. I'm not going to convince you, but at least I can offer the perspective of an artist who has been involved in the space since 2017 before any of you heard about it. So yeah, RSA has been around for quite a while. I can't remember what year it was. It might have been 2019 or even 2020, where people like in the Ethereum community were getting really hyped that this Grammy Award-winning artist was kind of like using Uniswap and LPing on there and things like that. And that was pretty fun. It was like the first signs of mainstream adoption, like non kind of, I guess like crypto native adoption that we had. So that was pretty cool back then. But this thread from RSC, I think, is the thread you send to all the NFT haters, to be honest. It is that good. I suggest going and giving it a read. But I think what I really loved about this thread was this tweet here, where he says, a lot of people seem to miss that the entire point of NFTs is to make content free while making ownership scarce. Nobody's forcing you to pay for an NFT. You can still enjoy it for free alongside everyone else. You like my music, you can have it for free. I think that encapsulates the whole thing. And I think this is where the divide is. People do think that, a lot of the NFT haters think that we're just making NFTs so that we can make digital things scarce, so that we can kind of like bring scarcity culture back and get rid of abundance culture. It's the complete opposite of what's happening. You still have, you can have everything for free. You can have abundance culture, but you can have the other aspect to it as well, where there's actual scarce digital things that people can buy. Limited edition NFTs that people can buy a lot of the NFTs that are worth a lot are limited, like the 10,000 profile picture NFTs, they're limited. But you can always right-click save it if you want. But the thing is that, yes, you have the picture, you have the art, but you don't actually own it, right? You don't own the kind of like NFT associated with it. But it's not like you can't actually access that content. And that's RIC's point here, where he basically says that you can still listen to his music for free. It's all out there. But if you want to actually support him, if you want to own an NFT that he puts out, if you want to, kind of like own something limited and scarce, you can do that as well. So I really like that tweet, but the rest of the thread is great. It's really, really good. As I said, send it to all your NFT haters that you see, and I suggest giving it a read. But I just wanted to point out that one and kind of like really highlight that I thought that was a really, really great tweet there. All right, so Mihailo from Polygon here put out a tweet the other day where he said, Polygon Edge allows anyone to spin up their own EVM chain in minutes. This is just the beginning. We have cool plans for the future. More consensus modules, trustless bridging, L2 support, integrations like oracles, explorers, and indexes. And then he says multi-chain Ethereum is coming. So just a refresher for those who don't know, Polygon Edge is basically is the SDK for kind of the Polygon ecosystem, and you can build your own kind of like sovereign chain if you want, an EVM chain as Mihailo says here, layer 2s, all that sort of stuff there. And I've spoken about how I'm pretty bearish on sovereign chains before. So sovereign chain just means kind of like L1 chains or like app specific L1 chains, but I'm bearish on them as the majority. it's actually a niche. I'm actually bullish on them as a niche. And the niche can expand to, essentially, there are certain like centralized enterprises and corporations that would like to have their own EVM chain that they have complete control over, that they actually have like sovereign control over. And what that means is basically that it's not an L2 that outsources its security. They have full control over that as well. They have full control over the consensus set and everything like that. So because of that, that's why Polygon Edge was built, because they work with corporations, they work with enterprises quite closely. I mean, Polygon Nightfall, they worked with EY on that sort of stuff there, and they understand these needs. They understand that these enterprises and corporations, they want complete and total control over the whole thing. Like, yes, they can interoperate with the Ethereum public network and maybe even layer 2s and things like that, but that doesn't take away from the fact that they don't want to give up any ounce of control, doesn't matter what it is. And obviously you can have a fully centralized L2, but with an L2, the one thing you don't get with an L2 is your own consensus set, your own validator set, your own sovereignty. But that actually isn't needed for pretty much most things. As I said, I believe this is a niche use case, and I believe that Polygon Edge perfectly satisfies that, but and I think it's probably the best solution out there right now. But for everything else, I still think L2s are good, and there's no reason that Polygon Edge can't be used with L2s as well. I'm spinning up EVM compatible stuff once that's out. Like, obviously they have the ZK teams working on that sort of stuff, which I'm sure they'll integrate. But for now, I believe it's just EVM kind of like chains, which is totally fine for the niche that it fits into, I believe. All right, then a new project called Starkswap was announced over the weekend. So they're calling themselves a next-generation DeFi powered by public ZK rollup technology. So this is going to be a AMM built on Starknet. So this is really cool. I mean, this is just how should I say it? Kind of like another native L2 app going live. I don't know if they're a fork of Uniswap or not. There doesn't seem to be any kind of details on here. It just says Starkswap will be launching on the Starknet Planets Alpha testnet in Q1 of 2022, and further details will be shared soon. So yeah, I'm not sure if this is going to be just a fork of Uniswap, and they've just kind of like renamed it and built it on Starknet instead, or if this is going to be a kind of like new AMM design. We're going to have to see there. Maybe you can get an answer out of it on their Discord channel, which you can join here. But just great to see another kind of like L2 native product be announced here, especially on Starknet, which, the Starknet ecosystem seems to be really, really ramping up lately. So I'm very, very happy to see that. But just wanted to put this project on your radar, and possibly another airdrop that you guys can farm. I know you guys love your airdrops, so definitely go check this out. So Connext put together a really great thread about why Arbitrum is a game changer for Ethereum. So this is a 15-tweet thread from them here, all about optimistic rollups, why they're great, how Arbitrum works, and how Arbitrum is different, all that sort of stuff there. So again, just wanted to put this on your radar for you to go give a read. As I said, best thing to do in general is just research, read, learn as much as you can about all these systems, about layer 2s, about anything within Ethereum. That is the highest return on investment you'll ever have, to be honest, within this ecosystem. And that's exactly what I focus most of my energy on, and I think you guys should be doing this as well. So definitely go check this out. There's links to blog posts and Twitter threads and everything. It'll keep you busy for a little while here. All right, finally, just a quick shout out to Max here. I did an interview with him, I believe it was over the weekend or Friday. I can't remember exactly what day it was, but it's still fresh. We spoke about all things Ethereum and layer 2s for most of it, so definitely go check this out if you haven't already. It was really fun. I really appreciated Max for having me on, interviewing me. He's got his own channel as well where he does a bunch of content on there, and I believe I was his first interview as well, so that was quite cool. So yeah, I was honored to be on. If you haven't watched it yet, definitely go check it out. It'll be linked in the YouTube description. But on that note, I'm going to end it there for today. So thank you everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks everyone.